Welcome everyone, viewers. It's me, it's your boy, I'm back, and we got some stuff to talk about, man. People are really struggling in Path of Exile too, it sounds like. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It kind of it kind of reminds me of when Elden Ring got super popular and a bunch of people played it when they weren't a fan of the Dark Souls FromSoft genre at all. And like the learning curves and the expectations are just so different for challenging games. I feel like that you're I don't even think it's more casual. I don't know, you come to know what the game developer is going to challenge you with. And for Path of Exile, uh, if I pull up the shop here, oops. Oh, and the shop's dead. Well, the shop goes down a lot. So that's uh that's okay. Let me find out the video again. Here we go. Uh the shop is what Path of Exile 2 challenges you with more than anything else. If you're playing Trade League, uh you can trade, right? A big part of the game is trading. So these guys, I'll play some of this video and react to it in a second. Uh, but these guys like Paul Tassi here, I guess he's a games journalist or something. A lot of people are reacting to his video, and it is a negative take. He's saying the in game doesn't play well, and what happens is you're playing the campaign and you have like the strength of your character over here, and then you have like the time played over here. And the strength of your character starts off pretty low. And over the course of the campaign, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. But every time you hit, let's say this is Act 2, you get a nerf to your resistances. So you take a bump down at the start of every act, right? And Act 3, but then you start getting gear, right? And you go up, and then you go into cruel difficulty, and it just bumps down your resistances every so often. I don't know exactly what act they do it in, but basically every act you're getting bumped down in your survivability. And once you get to cruel, you're usually geared enough to kind of stomp cruel, but if you're not, what you can do is trade. So if you're not getting stronger, let's say you get to cruel and you're just not getting stronger, but the monsters are. So relative to the monsters, you're actually getting weaker. Well, what'll happen is you'll get to a point where you'll feel hopeless, and then what you do is trade, and then after you trade, you get incredibly strong immediately, right after you trade for new items, stronger than you've ever been. And when you hit this peak, the game feels way too easy until you keep playing and playing and playing, and the monsters catch up. as you keep playing and playing and playing, the monsters catch up. And then you hit somewhere, you hit Endgame. And then you feel super giga weak because the way they scale the monsters and the way you scale is just with damage. And your survivability just kind of stays the same. Right? And the same with the monsters is. So what happens is at endgame, you come to this peak where the time to kill is like goes from like a 5 second fight to a 1 second fight. And that is like Path of Exile 1, that is what the developers are trying to get away from. We don't want 1 second Twitch fights. We want fights that have meat on them where you have some strategy. Like, if I wanted to play a Twitch shooter, I'd go play Valorant or Counter Strike. Games like this are supposed to have a strategic element, which means the difficulty is prep, right? And then engage the bad guys, and then do whatever combo strategy you have, and the fight should be over. And depending on if you did these things right, did you prep? Did you engage? Did you do your combo? If you didn't do if you didn't do those things right, you don't really deserve to win. That's what we should be testing you on. And the thing is that the engage and the combo gets shrunk down to 1 second encounters. So this is basically the same thing. You engage in combo immediately, and if you don't kill them immediately, you die. Because all of your prep here at in-game, instead of going to damage, like it's been going to damage the whole time, now right here, you need to put it into survivability. You need to force survivability onto your character because of the way the monsters are just scaling with damage also. And that maybe that is like what they need to fix is scaling with the monsters. They needed the monster's health to scale more and the damage to scale less. And then that would fix the players having to build for that. That would make the game easier for a new player. Uh, or another thing is they have currency exchange in the game. They need to have the trading in the game. Is it up? It might still not be up. Yeah, it's not responding. They need to have the trading in the game, or they need to like this is a developer decision, right? Do you make the game feel good to play for trade or solo self-found? Because if you make it feel good for solo self-found, you don't have to trade, and I feel like that's just a better game, which means you need to like do more drops. You need to finagle the drops because you can play, and if you don't get any drops for your character, which is highly unlikely from my experience, but if near end games, it's definitely harder, right? Because you need more specific pieces that to replace your old gear. Once you get to end game, drops do get harder because you have better gear. As you get better gear, the gear that could replace it, that amount is smaller and smaller. Like you don't really need to replace it if your gear's perfect, right? So you could also, I guess the second thing would be drops, right? They need to they could fix the scaling to make it easier to build. They could fix the drops to make it easier where you don't have to trade. Because apparently anybody who's struggling with the game is not trading. You can go onto the website whenever it's up. not timed out or dead, and you can just trade for better gear. Like whatever you find in your game, if you can't use it, you just need to know relatively how valuable it is and sell it to players, get currency, and then buy stuff for you. It's just like in real life, you're not going to be able to find somebody to barter with, like chickens for cows or whatever. You need to sell the chickens for cash and then use the cash to buy the cows, right? Because it's really hard, simple, like how do you make a trade, right? It's it's not very complicated. You just, hey, this isn't good for me, but I can tell this is a good item and somebody will want it. Not me, but somebody wants it. So I'm not going to scrap it. I'm going to sell it. And then if you do that enough, you only need like 50 or 100 exalted orbs to get gear up for endgame. It's not that much. Uh, if you just keep selling stuff the whole time you're playing, you could probably do it in like 40 hours, easy, which is like a whole single player adventure game, right? And that equates about right, right? Red Dead Redemption 2 was like 60 hours. I think The Witcher 3 is like 100 hours or something, unless you're like giga speedrunning it and you've already beat it. So I feel like that's a reasonable amount of time. Anyways, in the end game, yeah, you're gonna get put in the dumpster and you're gonna get one shot by everything. And well, let's watch some of the video. What is this guy's actual criticisms? Let's see here. Let's make sure my camera's in a good spot.
All right, I am back
That's
with a
fine.
new Path of Exile 2 video, which may end up being my last one for a while, which is unfortunate. I don't really want to make this video. I know it will probably get me yelled at a certain amount by existing
He
fans,
knows. He
calling me a
knows.
tourist or whatever. I'm a new player. I'm a new player to Path of Exile,
So am
so I
I.
can only give my take, but this is
Granted, guys, on my uh, I could get to it. Oh, the website's down for maintenance. Awesome. On Path of Exile 1, I have a level 26 character with like 20 hours played or something. Like I don't know. I'm not an experienced Path of
based on an
Exile
article
2
I wrote
player
today
or
about Path of
Path of
Exile
Exile at all.
2's Endgame. And that was sort of a reaction to my own experience and then a video I watched from Kriparian, who is a great YouTuber. I watched so much of his stuff during Diablo, and he's great. And he really articulates the issues that I'm having and made me feel like I'm not really alone. And the end result is like, I got to stop playing this for the time being. Where I am currently at in the game, it does not seem like there's a reasonable path forward to continue.
You're not trading. That's the path forward. You can literally get any drops, sell them, and trade. A reasonable is that not reasonable? That is part of the this is what I was talking about when I first started streaming, is that the expectations are different. These guys are coming in thinking that this is a solo self-found experience where you don't have to interact with other players. The game is not built that way. It loot drops randomly on a table, and if you want to play that way, there's a mode for that. It's called solo self-found, where you just have to keep farming mobs until they drop something for your character. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can literally get any drop, sell it, and then buy stuff for your character and progress in a meaningful, reasonable amount of time, right?
Again, this is early access. I will fully acknowledge that, and clearly it is an early access for a reason because this end game is not it for I would say the vast majority of players. I also think I have probably played more than a lot of quote unquote average players. Not as much as the 14, 15 hour a day grinding streamer guys, but probably more than a lot of people who have just been kind of playing the early access when they have a free moment or two. This is my job, so I have had a lot more time. Um, I've gone through the campaign 2 times. The once on normal, once on cruel difficulty, which is ironic because cruel is much easier because your build is really ramped up by that point. Where at lower levels, it can be really really challenging. Crip talks about how Act Two was like the hardest the game was for him because you're
The scaling is not perfect. So what essentially what Cruel is supposed to be is Diablo 2 Nightmare. And it's just because, they didn't have the rest of the campaign finished or whatever. And so you have to play through the first 3 acts again on a harder difficulty, and it's a slog, right? I had cast on freeze going, dropping comments, just auto attacking packs of monsters. It was a joke. But like I don't think I did anything special. I mean, I would say I'm above average as far. So I do imagine what my experience would have been if I was a little bit worse, and then like I justify that as the average because I'm definitely not like the average casual player. So even if it was a little bit harder, or I made a few more mistakes and I wasted a little bit more of my time making bad trades or deleting good items or something like that, I could see where you would be stuck because I made mistakes. I made huge mistakes playing the game that wasted lots of my time already on my way to going to the pinnacle bosses. And I'm talking like hundreds of hours worth of mistakes that I could have skipped tons and tons of content and got late game gear for my character. Like I made big mistakes, but if I would have made more, like more and more and more mistakes and wasted more of my time, that's where these players are. They're not trading. They don't know how to adjudicate value on items, which is a big part of the game because it's a trading game. Anything that drops for you, you have to look at stats and go, okay, this has got health and resistances. Somebody will probably buy this. The required level is 30, so it'd be good for a low level player. Yeah, 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 sure. And then you put it up in your shop. Like that is the part of the game. If you're playing solo self found, that is like a totally different thing where I'd say the developers probably should change the drops to make that experience totally different.
so you can be so underpowered at that point, especially melee, um, that you can't really do anything about it because you can't really farm up in a traditional sense in an act because that's just not really how it's structured. So you are a little bit stuck until you figure out some of these fights. It was challenging. It was definitely, there were challenging aspects to it, especially in normal, and I'm okay with that. I do not need to be a Diablo 4 steamroller of just blowing up entire screens of guys and just not really feeling any challenge even at kind of the hardest difficulties. It's fun certainly, but I appreciated Path of Exile's more kind of methodical pace. The bosses, which maybe not fully Dark Souls, but that kind of idea where you learn their attack patterns, trial and error, all this stuff. So by the end, I was cruising. I think I beat all of the act bosses in anywhere from 1 to 3 tries with my ranger build, and I was excited to get to the end game because there's a ghost. Evie, she came.
He's got a
um,
corgi on his
I thought my
dogs.
build was
I
like,
love those
okay, I'm
dogs.
gonna keep powering it up. I'm gonna keep leveling up, and this end game looks really interesting. It's like this big map. You got all these different nodes. You plug in waystones for like different levels of challenge and things, and that sounded pretty cool to me. It seemed like a really interesting setup. There's a whole new skill tree for it, and I'm like, all right, let's take it on. This is nothing like the game that came before it. Um, the main issues here are that all of these dungeons are now, or these maps are now one death over. You have one life, and if you die for any reason,
They're not, man. They're not. They're not though. But they're not. And they're infinite. I gotta load up the game. Hold on. It only takes a second. What am I, level 80? This is the end game. If you lose the special events on your node, which makes the node less profitable. So you're wasting time. You're wasting more time doing it because it's less profitable to be in there because it's not as hard, right? You're also making it easier. But you get to do it again. You can just do it again. You can just do it again without the extra bonuses. Like all these things down here will stay. You'll lose your waystone, but look how many waystones I have. What's this? Is a tier 13. I have tier 13 waystones now. 14. Like we're getting up there. And yeah, so this map goes on forever. Like you can see as far as I can see, but it keeps going, right? Like I just keep going and I keep going and I keep going. Like this doesn't stop. This is all map. You know, who knows what kind of good stuff's there. But this is the one of the pinnacle bosses here. And look how far away it was from my spawn. Right? This is by design. And these moments of zen, look how far away they are from my spawn. This has got to be by design, or I got really lucky. And these will give you in-game items to help you in in-game. You just go in there and pick one. Okay? Do your research.
You're out of the map. And not only are you out of the map, you can also no longer go back to that same map because it eats your waypoint token. So you have to go grind out a new waypoint token.
You can buy waypoint tokens. Here's the thing. If you're right at the beginning of endgame, you go to the end of Act 3 Cruel, and you can teleport to the Ziggurat Refuge in the past. This is the map you end up, the hub, where you end up in endgame before you get a hideout. Doriani can buy or sell waystones. 1, 2, apparently he's skipping tier 3s. And you can just buy tier stone wave 5s. I have 500,000 gold. I could buy so many of these. So the lowest you'll ever be at is waystone tier 5. If you can do those. And the only difference is that each one of these like increases the level of the enemies by like 1. It's not a ton. It's like I think you start here at, I want to say level 60 or 70, and there's like 15 or 16 levels of maps. Yeah, so maybe each map increases the level by 2 or something, because I think the highest level of monsters that you ever fight are like in the 80s. I could be wrong about that, but that's about where the items start to peter off. As far as like what they're
on a lower level,
what they drop,
depending on how many of these you have, and then get back up to that tier, and then hope you don't die again. One death per level, especially at like the base levels of these seems overly punishing. That is certainly not how the normal game worked in any capacity. Uh, Dying was like not the greatest because it would set you pretty far back on the map, and not only would you have to trek all the way back, but they would respawn all the enemies. It wasn't, it was kind of annoying, but it was fine. And then all the bosses, they were hard, but they would at least spawn you right outside again. Again, a lot of boss fights are trial and error, learning their moves, figuring out how to beat them. And unless you were just so powerful, you would tank a boss, one shot a boss, whatever, really easily. They're certainly all about trial and error. The young game is not like this all. And the problem with the one death thing is, okay, maybe I could, that's a challenge and it's not ideal, but you just play really, really carefully. Yes, but that only works to a point. And, you will find.
It's not about playing carefully. It's about the way the game scales. You have to understand that you're scaling your damage and the monsters are scaling their damage. Nobody's scaling safety or defense, right? Your survivability is like staying relatively the same the whole game. You start the game with like, compared to how much damage you do, let's say you start the game doing 100 damage and you have 100 life. Well, you end the game doing 1,000,000 damage and you have 1,000 life, right? Like it's not the same amount of scaling, not even close. The damage is scaling way up there, probably like exponentially up there. Actually, if you look at the skill gems, which is a good thing to bring up, this website shouldn't be down. Nice. If you look at the skill gems, let's look at how damage scales. Let's just take a random skill like Lightning Bolt. This is the damage scaling on Lightning Bolt. Okay? It's exponential. Every skill level above level 20 is exponentially more damage, right? You have 51 damage here, and then you have like 57 damage here. And it's just more and more and more and more until you get up to ridiculous numbers. Now, your health isn't going to do that. Like, this is all by design, and if you don't understand this, then you're not going to understand what to do on your passive tree, because you could be like me and a lot of other players, and you click all of the ones that say damage, 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 yes. Okay? Increase damage, yes. And you don't click the ones that say block chance. Alright? I didn't click the ones that said block chance with a shield. I clicked a lot of them that said increased maximum energy shield, though. But that's not really enough, right? You have to unselect probably, like these area of effect nodes that I think are really fun to make all my stuff really huge circles on the ground. If I go back to my hideout, I make really giant circles on the ground, and I think that's really fun because then I can stand in them and play the game the way I want to play it. With really big explosions, right? I like that. That's fun to me. So I click those nodes. Okay? It's not necessarily the best build, because I can still get one shot. But it's fun. So and it's early access, so this is the time, if you're not playing the game super seriously and trying to get like super crazy with it, it's a good time to test things out and have fun. But yeah, it's good to know that like this is the way that the game scales, and that you have to click nodes on your tree appropriately.
At certain points in the game, kind of no matter what your build is, depending on where you are in the game, that it is possible to get one shot, and then the further you go,
Yeah.
it almost becomes more possible because of enemy damage scaling.
Yes.
And that's certainly true on
So he
a
knows.
ranger, which relies on kind of dice roll evasion to get around stuff, and obviously on melee you're getting hit a lot more. So not only are you losing a map, but like any rogue hit from any big enemy can theoretically kill you. And I'm like, okay, well, this isn't great, and I don't really love how this is going, but is this just the beginning? Like, am I just not strong enough to be taking this on, even if I am kind of at the lower ranks? And like, yeah, I was beating some of the lower maps and stuff, but then you'd take a one hit and then lose your stone, and now I'm out of stones and trying to figure out what to do. And then I watched the crypt video, and the crypt video kind of laid everything out. It is the video that just straight up made me like, yeah, I'm out. Okay, like this is not something I want to play. The issue there is like, the long and short is it doesn't get any better from here. It gets worse. And what Crip explains is that the further you get into this, the deaths get more and more punishing. So everything is one death, you're out of the map. But you get further in, you start losing XP, and
Yeah, I'm at that point. I'm level 80. But the thing is, I don't really die as much anymore. When I first got into Endgame, I was like, hey, what's going on here? And then I was like, oh, uh, I need to not die. uh, I mean, even in Cruel, I started building defensively because I kind of expected this to be the case. But yeah, like, if you lose these high tier waystones, you know, consecutively in a row, you're gonna have to build all the way back up to get them again. Because a higher tier, like, I can only get a tier 15 from this 13, right? This is like 2 levels up. So if I had to go all the way back to 7s, and I had nothing other than 7, I'd have to play a 7 and then an 8 and a 9 probably to, get back up. But that's like one session, well, depending on how long your session is. Yeah, I mean, he's not wrong, and I wouldn't even say it's a skill issue. It's just like what people expect from the game. Like this, I expected this, so it's not a big like knee-jerk reaction to me. But I played Diablo 2, and I don't know. I think a lot of people that played this hopefully played Diablo 2, and so they kind of understand what the game developers are trying to go for. And if you don't understand that, where it's like D2 plus Dark Souls, uh, it's sharp edges, learning curves. You have to learn the mechanics, and you have to do what I put on here. You have to prep your character based on your understanding of the game. Like there's a lot of understanding scaling and items and evaluating stuff to trade. Like I'd say this is probably 60% of the game. And maybe this is like I don't know. I don't even know if these are equal, but they might be. And maybe these are like 20% of the game is actually, like 40% of the game is actually playing it. But probably almost more of the game is prepping. And that's so you don't waste your time, right? Because if you make bad decisions, you might feel like you're not getting stronger. And you might never trade and hit this power spike. Right? And when you get to endgame and you get down here, you might not know how to get out of it. And all this stuff is kind of outside of the game itself because it's on a trade website. So, like what I was saying before is they have this currency exchange person in here where you can trade currency, all the currency in the game. And you can get stronger here, sure. You can get jeweler's orbs, you can get quality currency to upgrade your gear. You can get catalyst to upgrade your ring quality and amulet quality, which I probably should still do if these are cheap enough. How much are these? Isn't this like to fight the boss? Yeah, 300. Yeah, those are too expensive. Uh, you know, I'm not like giga rich. I have 62 orbs right now. I could be much richer if I made better decisions, though. And that's, I think, maybe an effort. You know, they a concerted effort by the devs. They did put these tiers in here, but they're kind of amorphous because they scale up. So like tier 9 is really high, but you don't know what the top tier is unless you go and research. And that maybe needs to be more obvious to a new player of like, hey, I got this bow, but I'm playing a ranger, right? What do these, you can't even really see them because the way they go into the background, but what are these tiers? Why are they so small? And what do they mean? And which ones are good? I mean, a rule of thumb I use is like nothing below tier 2 or nothing below tier 3 on an item, and it's probably worth selling. You don't want any tier 1s, that's bad, obviously. It's the first tier of the piece of gear. Like, this is only plus 11 life. So, I mean, I don't even know what all the tiers max out at. I just kind of look and see, like, okay, did this roll a lot of good higher tier stuff, like tier 3s and 4s? That's pretty good. Tier 6, 2 tier 6s, a 4 and a 3, that's pretty good. You just kind of, rough it. Now, not every stat is created equal. Doesn't matter what tier it rolled in, right? Because this has like triple resistance on it and spirit. Like that's pretty good. But also, it's got no plus to energy shield. So, somebody might want this, but a lot of players might not. But like, yeah, how do you teach a player all that meta knowledge about the game inside of the game? Do you have like a trade school vendor that's like, hey, we're going to teach you about items, like an item trade school vendor? I think that'd be a great idea. Have a little dude early on in the game that's like an item nerd, like an archaeologist or an artificer or something, and he's like, yo, this is the down low. But the developers don't want to tell you what items are good because that's part of like figuring out the game. But they could explain all of the UI elements to you so that you can make the decisions better, I feel.
And Lord knows how hard it is to, gain XP at higher levels already. So you'll lose some percentage of your XP if you die. You will not only lose your higher tier waystone, but in some of these places you will lose all of the connecting points to like where you just got to. So you'll have to replay those maps to get all the way back up to what you need. And in those lower maps, according to him, like you're not farming anything remotely at all that you need. So you could do that for an hour, get all the way there, die again, go back. You've lost XP. So like you can actually be behind where you started at that tier. And like as annoying as it is to have to start a map over and lose your waystone, that sounds infinitely more annoying the higher you get. The second thing he verifies is that this one.
You don't have to do the maps over. Like, let's say this is what your map will look like after you lose it, right? It'll have none of the, like, all these ones near my starting zone. It'll look like these. But it'll say map attempted. You can just go to a different node that has a thing. All of these blue ones I can go to. All of them. So if I lose one and it looks like this, I could just say, F that, I'm going to this one. I'm going to go to the one, I'm going to try again and try to get the rewards from these events. I'm not going to do the map that's got Jack all on it. Like this one, I'll probably never do this one ever. Oh, look, I did. I tried. This is when I tried and lost. Map attempted. This is what it looks like after you lose one. You can tell I didn't beat it. I didn't go back and try it again. If I want to get to this node, I can do this one and this one instead. Or I can do this one and this one, and I can get here. if that's my goal, right? I don't have to redo the one that's gonna not have anything on it.
One-shotting thing is not gonna stop. Like, not really in any build. He's talking about how like you have to build for like 3,000 HP, like all the armor you can, max resistance, all of the stuff. And even then, you can still get one shot or at least killed in very cheap ways. And he talks
True.
about, floor effects that you can barely even see that kill you,
They
or
fixed that.
enemy attacks that are not telegraphed, or
They're fixing that.
elite modifiers that you have to like fully understand as they're running towards you that you can't avoid, because there are no movement skills in this game. And he talks about how the entire game essentially is based around dodge rolls and not screwing up dodge rolls, because if you are in a situation where you can get one hit, the only way you can always avoid that theoretically is hitting every dodge roll perfectly.
Huh? The only time I have to dodge roll is when I've messed up on step 2. Engage the enemy. If you mess up on engage the enemy properly, it's time to dodge roll. Or if you're doing a boss fight and he's doing his big attack, it's time to dodge roll. It's one reaction in your toolbox of your character. I have like this. So, I know not every character has this, but every character has something. Some characters can block. If you have a shield, I can't block. But like the dodge roll in this game is actually really forgiving too. Like as soon as you press spacebar, you're invulnerable until the very end of your roll. But a lot of the times, I'll just be running around the map and I'll be like, a bunch of monsters will come. I'll be surrounded. I'll be like, oops, I messed up on step 2. Roll, wall. It's not like you're doing Sekiro level deflects, like 20 deflects a boss dodge roll timer. It's not that. It's not like that. It's just you're only dodge rolling after you've already messed up.
And obviously, I know there are like these highest tier guys who are like have the best builds in the world and are like crazy APM dodge roll folks, but like, Crip is a top tier player.
Crazy APM dodge roll. I'm in my 30s, man. You just press the space bar. Just hit the space bar. Oh my god, look, this is as fast as APM as it goes. It doesn't go faster than this. I'm just spamming spacebar. I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, you want to see crazy APM? No.
Slash shot is the wave dash of guns. Half step is
This
the dash dance.
is
and
crazy
reload shot is the L
APM.
cancel. If you like melee and you like shooters, you will probably like guns. This video and its description contains all the information a melee player should need to learn
I played
guns and
this game as a teenager. This is crazy APM. This is caffeinated gaming at its finest. Look at the keyboard and look at the guy's mouse and look at how many buttons per second he actually has to press to play the game at a skilled level, and all the decisions he's making while he's doing it.
Cool. Basic first-person shooter principles apply. Freestyle Guns is where the melee community is playing right now. IBDW, S2J, myself, and many other Smash players are playing. If you haven't played Guns in a long time, leading is gone. Aim straight at your opponent as you do in all modern shooters. I'm going to assume that you're experienced learning tech skills, so I'm not going to spend a long time on each move. If you need more...
Okay, it's ridiculous. His keyboard is lighting up everywhere. This is high APM. When I'm playing on Path of Exile, I wish I had this thing, but you're just walking around, and then I have my combo. I use all my mouse buttons. I use 4 of my skills on my mouse, and 4 skills on my keyboard. and I put them so where I just face roll the keyboard. I don't have to think about it. I just right. I just press all the buttons in an order from left to right. Okay. I don't even, and that's part about getting good at your build. Or making your build easier for you to play. If it's complicated, you just press them left to right. It's not this. I'm not playing Guns the Duel anymore. I would like to try it, but I don't know if I could even be a fraction.
On a move, check the description. Default controls
as good
are
as I
not
used to
perfect in
be.
this game. For the basics, simply rebind block to right-click and alt-fire to shift. Besides that, I will use default controls to demonstrate moves. These moves are listed in a
Here, let's look at advanced
silent
tech.
double flash
Look at the keyboard.
An advanced movement technique for rollouts from spawn. Late dash. This is only possible if your key bindings allow you to press WASD, reload, and sword at the exact same time. You will at the very least need to bind sword to...
Okay, look at all these combos. Okay, that's enough.
And if he's saying this, and I've seen other top players saying this too, like what hope do any of us have? And it's enough to just sort of make me stop playing. I don't see a reason to keep going here if it's not really even about getting stronger. If it's not like I just am, not skilled enough or whatever because I don't hit every single dodge roll and every.
You don't have to. You can buffer a lot of your defenses by getting something like, so I'm energy shield, so I get energy shield, but if you're evasion, you get evasion. If you're armor, you get armor. What you want is a piece of armor, or a lot of pieces of armor, that have multiple rolls of that defensive stat, and then you socket it with an iron rune that increases it by 20%, and you put max quality on it. Okay, that's going to give you these huge energy shield numbers, or evasion, or armor, whatever you are, and give you, for me, I just have a huge buffer. For armor, they reduce a ton of damage, and for evasion, you just never get hit. And if you get, evasion is the most random one, right? You can't rely on evasion because, like, sometimes you get hit and you get one shot, but a lot of the times you can play really bad and you never get hit. It is random, and that is the problem with evasion, is that you're buying into the randomness.
Single map, like that to me is nothing like what I've played so far. And I feel like I've heard some people pushing back on this. Asmongold made a video about Crip's video. Of course, I guess I'm doing that here, but I'm not playing Crip's video. Where he's like, oh, like it's not that hard. Like he's complaining too much. And like both Asmongold switched off of a warrior because it was too hard and switched to something else. And also like,
I really want to play a warrior because now that I know like kind of what items I would look for, I would just stack Giga Armor and block, and I don't even feel like it would be hard. And they changed the Trial of the Sekimas, so where like it's a lot easier for melee classes. I think the Trial of the Sekimas would have been hard, but not impossible. You just use a totem and don't get hit, right? You just dodge all the projectiles. Which is like, they're all super telegraphed. It's like you just go like this. You literally just run in a circle and dodge all the projectiles. Like this is what I mean by dodging all the, and then you just put your totem up. Hey, what are these guys doing? Oh, I didn't even realize these guys were in my camp.
Welcome. Welcome.
Weird.
In a gambling mood?
Oh, this guy sell gear. Interesting.
Good luck.
Glad to see you.
Too bad the gear is garbage. This one's not terrible. This is what I'm talking about, right? This has armor and resistances on it. This would be a fine piece of armor. 700 armor on this Maelstrom Sanctuary Advanced Steel Plate. Like some level 55 guy could definitely want to buy this. So like this is something I would think about buying just to resell. Now the lightning resistance and the chaos resistance is pretty low, but 700 armor is not bad. Somebody might want that.
A lot of the people complaining are not in the end game. They might be on cruel difficulty or something like, well, I'm on cruel difficulty and this game isn't hard at all. It's like, yeah, that's true. Cruel difficulty was not very hard, but you get into the end game, you play an hour of that and figure out like how this is going and how this is going to work. I think you will probably end up being where I'm at.
Or once you get to the end game and you get hit in the face and you're like, oh man, this is miserable. Oh, what am I going to do? You trade. You trade. And then you get Giga Strong again. And then as you go up to higher tier maps, the monsters get stronger and stronger, and you get more drops. See, this is the problem. This is why you scale down, is because your drops... I have no more room on here. Your drops are like progressively more for other people. They're like 90% for other people. And like 10% for your character. Okay? So you have to trade this 90% into cash so you can get gear for yourself. And I mean, obviously you can't do that when the website's down for maintenance, so you're kind of stuck for now. But
And
that should
the thing
only
is,
be
like, I
temporary.
don't want to abandon this game. Like I really enjoy Path of Exile. I had a great time with the 50 whatever hours I put in it to beat both stages of the campaign. I'm just so disappointed that the end result of this is essentially like a non-functional end game where it doesn't seem remotely worth trying to play it, especially solo. I would love for stuff to be overhauled to the point where it actually feels rewarding for, you know, the pretty decent, you know, if I'm steamrolling everything on Cruel, I'd at least like to, you know, participate in the end game in a more meaningful extent than like, you know, just the base lower tier ones. And even those, if you step the wrong way, you can lose. And there's nothing, you know, you can really do about your build to fully change.
There is. You just trade. Just trade. Let's see, what on my character did I actually make? I bought my staff. I did make this ring. I bought my armor. I did make this helmet. I did make this necklace. I think I made this ring too. I bought these gloves. I bought this belt. And I bought these boots. So like, I bought more than I made. Just barely. It's about 50-50. And I bought my second staff too. So some stuff but if I were to go buy some of the stuff I made, like this tiara is crazy. Triple resistance tiara plus energy shield. This thing would sell for so much. Look, if the trade site was up, I could show you. I could put this for sale for like 20 exalted orbs, and it would just, I'd get spam pinged for people to buy this thing.
That according to, you know, other people. I can imagine maybe this will be fixed and overhauled over time. I looked at what they're changing in the end game, and it was just like, we're adding more rare packs so you can finish maps faster or something like that. Like, they didn't address anything about difficulty or whatever.
They did. They gave you resistances. My resistances used to be at like 60 or 50, and now I'm capped on lightning and cold, and I'm like 10% away from fire and chaos. So yeah, no, they made it easier because people are complaining. This is the same resistances I had at like Act 3 normal or something. Like I am significant. I'm going to take significantly less damage from these sources now. Additionally, they reduce the amount of critical hits the monster could do to you, so I'm going to take less physical damage also, while having 0% armor, 0% evasion, and 0% block. You know, I just have this buffer of an energy shield.
And like, to be clear, I'm not anti-difficulty. There were very, very challenging parts in this game, in the early campaign, especially when you don't have the build, that a lot of trial and error, really, you know, kind of frustrating stuff, but you overcome, you change your strategies, whatever. But if in the campaign, if I died to a boss and it kept sending me back to the previous map every single death, I would be like, screw this, I'm out of here. But that's essentially what the end game is. I don't know how much it'll change. It, like, the one death map thing seems kind of baked into the mode. So maybe at best they nerf enemy damage to be...
But you can just go to a different... You have, off your spawn, you have 4 directions. Where's my spawn? Here? You have 1, 2, 3, 4 directions, but as soon as you take one of those, you have 3 directions from that place to go. Right? If I went to this one, I would have 2 places. If I went to this one, I had 2 places to go or 3 places to... Well, these 2 connect. So it multiplies as you go out. Right now I have like hundreds of places to go. If I lose a map, I have hundreds of other options. Like, maybe not hundreds, but dozens of these blue ones that are activatable. So if I screw up and get taken down, it's usually my fault. Like, I lost a map where I said, oh, all the enemies can be cold immune, I'll still kill them. Well, apparently not. All I do is cold damage. And I gave the enemies 300% lightning damage, and they one-shot me. I was like, okay, that's my bad. Like, but I didn't have to do that.
more reasonable, so you're just not always getting one shot. One thing that actually does scale pretty well is enemy health. Like, my build was actually doing still really good damage to these higher level enemies. I thought that was a really good aspect of it. But if you're just going to be one shot with every attack you can't dodge roll out of, or like fighting a boss where you don't know the mechanics and the first attack kills.
Well, you know all the mechanics of all the bosses at this point, except the pinnacle bosses, right? Because everything's from the campaign. But like that's what I was talking about with the scaling. The survivability of you and the monsters stays the same, basically. Like, it's very small scaling, linear, and your damage is exponential. So like, once you get here, yeah, that's why you have to go and look at your tree and be like, okay, I don't need any more damage. Like, this block tree is looking really juicy, and like +1 all max res up here is looking pretty juicy now. 25, you know, I might want to come over here and get these now that my resistances are maxed. At least 2 of them are. +1 cold, +1 lightning max res. That might be pretty good.
Like, what are you supposed to do about that? And the analogy I like that I put in my article is like, it's like an Elden Ring, you know, a very challenging game that people love and like overcoming the challenge. If you fought Millennia for the first time and died and it reset, it took all of your runes and it erased all sites of grace on that part of the map. Like, that is the equivalent of this here, where I think it's great that games can be challenging, but if they just put in things that are irritating and exhausting and progress erasing for its own sake, like, no, I'm not going to deal with that. And that's a literal waste of my time if I can play a significant amount of a game and essentially get nothing for it. Like, at least right now I'm getting some XP, but if I start losing XP, what am I doing at all at that point? So that's why I'm done for now. I would love to come back to this. It's early access. You know, they're going to make big changes to this and that. And there's more campaign to add. I'd love to play more campaign because that was definitely the most fun I had. But I'm curious how everyone else feels about the end game. If you're running into some of the same issues I have, if you are there, or if you're not there yet, check back when you are, and you can see if you agree with me here. So,
Yeah, I am there, and I think that people are missing out that this is a trading game. Literally every like to get my ascendancy points, to get my third set here, to get into Shaper of Storms, I had to trade for to make it faster, right? That's what you do. I traded for the relics. Yeah, and here. I traded for some of these that are really strong. Like, you know, a bunch of honor resistance and maximum honor. 17% maximum honor, right? That's and then it's trivial, right? That's what I was saying. So like the game developers have to figure out, hey, is this spikiness okay? Where the game is super punishing and then you trade and it's ridiculously easy? Or are you trying to make a solo self-found experience where it should look like that the longer you play, like it's all like very linear? Because this is what this would eliminate a lot of these pains, right? Where you start the player out being super weak, and everything kind of drops when they need it to, and they put some safeguards in their Act 1 to where you don't miss skill gems. But I think, you know, that would be what all the players would want, that are new and complaining and stuff, is just this golden line of a progression. We're not where like you hit a new act and you drop down and then you have to gear up again every act, and then you hit endgame and you get chunked and one shot until you trade, and now the game's trivial until you get to, you know, a much higher tier map, where, you know, it's going to keep going down again as you do more content, and then this is like the pinnacle boss, right? And what you like when you hit the pinnacle boss, you're gonna need to trade again, right? You're gonna need currency to trade because you're gonna have to re-gear specifically to fight this guy. And then once you have this build where you can defeat the pinnacle boss and all of the prior content, like this is your final build. This is where you beat the game. And I'm like right here somewhere. And this guy was right here. Right? This is where Paul Tassi is. He hit endgame and he hit this power trough and he said, screw this, I'm not trading to get strong. And I made it a little bit further because I traded. You know? And, you know, you could trade or you get lucky with drops, but the developers really need to make a decision. Is this a solo self-found game or is this a trading game? Because if it's a solo self-found game, the drops have to be like made for the player, so that they have smooth progression. Otherwise, you get stuck at these power troughs And you could get stuck at these power troughs for a long time down here. And it feels bad because you're just grinding early maps and hoping you get lucky. And you never get to trade. So, yeah, I feel like the game is made to trade. If you don't want to grind, because like you're grinding here to here and here to here, and then you get to the next stage of content, and then you trade. Like that's just how the game is designed. So if you're not ready with that expectation, you're gonna have a bad time. And I don't think people have played a game like this in a long time. Maybe Path of Exile 1 players are more used to this than anyone else. But this was kind of the same thing in Diablo also, but like these games are really niche and old. Like if this game is bringing in players that are Dark Souls players, there's no trading really in Dark Souls unless you have like a really close friend that you're trading with, like I did. If you're getting the Elden Ring players, if you're getting, like people are used to having the tools to solve their own problems. In this game, other players have the tools to solve your problems. And if you're not willing to exchange currency and trade on the website, then it's not Guns the Duel. It's not that hard of a game. Oh, here we go. It looks like we're back up. Here's the trade website. Okay, if you're not going to figure out how to use this, like this is part of the game. And it sucks to have to go outside of the game to play the game, but that's what you're signing up for. That's part of what your expectations should be with this type of game. It's baked into the design. Like, if I wanted to get better, what's my lowest? Better gloves, maybe? Like, I have 128 energy shield on these. So I would just go gloves. Minimum of 128 energy shield. Minimum of 33 chaos resistance. Well, actually, I don't need all 33. I would just need... I could go down to 2 points on that. So 31 would be fine. Minimum of 31. I would want at least the same chaos resistance. So I think, what was that, 16? Or 12? Chaos res, at least 12. And yeah, that's about all I care about. And you just search for that. See if it works. It looks like their website's having a little issue. Maybe people are flooding it because they realize it's up. Yeah, our search is not going through. Let's try and refresh. Okay, it's probably crashed again. I mean, they have 500,000 people on their website, so an error occurred. Please try again later. Did it crash? It crashed again. Okay, yeah. All right. Well, that is an issue with 500,000 players. They're and trading being part of the game. You might want to keep the website up more often than not. It's been up like 90% of the time though, so it's not a huge deal. But yeah, like I'm selling all this stuff, and if it doesn't sell, I'll just lower the price on it or whatever. The main point is that you're constantly making trades so that your exalted orbs are constantly going up before you. So you have a bunch when I do need them. Like when I'm gonna go fight, I'm gonna have to totally change my build. I'm well aware to go fight this guy in the burning monolith. There's no way around it, really. At the very least, I'm probably gonna need blink, which is 30, 40. Yeah, I would need I need 20 spirit on something, which, you know, if their trading website worked, I would go check. But anyways, that's my reaction. That's the rant. That's, you know, is it too hard for a 30-year-old man to play? No, it's not this.
Something other than one. Many people bind sword and left hand free for good movement. Late dash half step. The improvement to the reload half
It is
step
not
allows
this.
you to be quicker than before.
Okay.
Triple dash double flash step. 3 dashes in
Triple dash double flash step.
one jump. Somewhat useful for evading shots. One shot double half step. A stepping stone to double half step. Double half step. Only possible with nearly perfected inputs. Extended air nade. Useful if your opponent approaches the same way every time. Ghost evade or flip evade. Dodges massives and flips during recoil. Useful if your opponent doesn't know about it or has no bullets left. Magic switch allows you to counterattack after recoil ends. Buy TBF. These techniques are becoming way too advanced. Are you really going to learn this? Grounded double half step. There are several more guns techniques that I cannot do and I do not know enough about to explain. Links for info on some of them are in the description. There are many more techniques in the game, but most of them are significantly less important than the ones in this video.
I love this game. It was so much fun. How do I how do I get this guy's link? Here we go. And here's this guy's link for the guns video. Sure. Cuz remix, good quality. Love to see it. 600 APM FPS? Question mark? Love it. Yeah, that game was so sick. Path of Exile, we're not canceling animations, okay? You can't. Because if you cancel mid animation like that, the skill doesn't go off. There's no benefit to it, so there's no point in doing it, right? It'll actually put your skill on cooldown, and I have no damage, right? I canceled my ability and it put it on cooldown. So if the game developers allowed animation canceling, we could get to a high APM game state where we throw all our abilities, cancel out of the recoil animations after the ability goes out. But at this point, you have to make sure the ability goes off before you dodge. You can't cancel it, right? See, you have this wind up, and you can cancel. It's. I have so much cast speed that it's really hard for me to cancel some of them because they come out so fast. But I can do it with the frost bomb because I slowed down the casting speed pretty good. But yeah, you're not doing all that. There's not like the spell comes out with the animation. There's no need to cancel because look how fast she puts her hand down. If she put her hand down slower, there'd be a reason to increase the APM to try to get the cancel. But the recoil animations to get back to the neutral state are incredibly fast. They're way faster than the casting animation. This leads to low APM gameplay. Like, because you have to let all the animations play, and there's no canceling to do. In guns, all of these cooldowns, where like she's putting her hand down or whatever, those animations are really long, but you can cancel out of them. That leads to an almost limitless amount of buttons you can press to cancel out of all of your animations and do all of your stuff faster. This game is not designed that way. It's for boomers. It's for us 30-year-old dudes, right? Like most of the game is played. 60% of the game is played in this prep stage where you are going and saying like, 16% cast speed. That looks pretty good. And you're getting loot, and you're going, 249 to evasion rating. I could probably sell that. Like you're making all these other decisions. That's not even. When you go into the fight, you're just face rolling your keyboard. Q, E, R, F, potion, C, right mouse button. Mouse button 4 and 5. And then left click. Like, you just face roll. You just set up your keybinds so it's brain dead easy, so you don't have to think about it. That's how you actually get good at playing your character. I mean, that is a skill in and of itself. Is like, hey, can I set up the controls in a way that are easy for me to play? But yeah. That's my rant. Hope you enjoyed. Is it too difficult? No. But the expectations are different. Like, the game developers need to train the players in the game that trading's part of the game, or people are going to have a bad time. Or you need to make the game designed to be solo self-found, which means you need to make sure that more drops are for the player character and not for other characters. What Diablo calls smart drops, I guess. And they seem pretty avoidant of wanting to do smart drops, so they need to have NPCs in the game, like Alva, where you can trade in-game. Like, if they could take this website that is constantly crashing and temporarily unavailable, and they could put it in the game at Alva or another NPC, then it would be much more new player friendly. Because having a third-party website, well, it's not even third-party, it's first-party website. It's their website. And if you click on links in the website, it will directly ping players in the game. Where trade? Chris, fix trade, please. Okay, look. Why is trade down? This guy's looking for party members. I might play with him. Yeah. But, like, all the players understand, basically, that it's a trading game. Fix trade. Otherwise, I will have to intervene. If the trading website's down, people are... And your character's in a power trough, right? If your character's down here and trade's down, then you're stuck down here, right? You're trying to buy, and it feels bad. Or you're going down here and you're trying to sell before you get to the next bit of content, before you hit your next power trough, and you're trying to sell and you can't sell. So like, I can't sell right now. It's like I got all this stuff in here to sell. Or friggin' get the trade website fixed so people can find my stuff. So it is what it is. If you're not down for that kind of game, then this is not the game for you. I mean, you could keep the game... Like, I didn't need these resistances. Like, you could keep the game hard if you make the economy run better, because that helps fix drops. Or you need to fix drops. There's not really, like, a world... Or you just make the game easier so you can beat the game with worse gear. So if you don't want to trade and you get bad drops, you can beat the game. But then If the game's like that, and I can trade, and I do trade, the game is so easy right after you trade. And I think you do want to get to this progression where the game gets harder as your character gets harder or gets stronger. The strength of your character is going up with time, and the enemies don't scale just damage exponentially and not survivability. Like, why is this not all just scaling linearly? Just scale everything linearly, and then like people assume that's how scaling is, right? So why would you not have that be the case? Why are you dropping the time to kill for the players and the mobs over time? Just keep it at 5 seconds the whole game and scale everything in a linear fashion. And then there's no roughness to the game. Now that might not be fun, because being up here at a power spike can be fun for some players, and being down here at a power trough could be difficult and challenging for some players, and they might like that. And the spikiness of the game could be a draw, and then it could be really boring if everything was linear. I feel like a lot of games are that way, and a lot of interesting games are not linear. So, you can maybe you flatten these out a little bit. You make the monsters a little more tanky and do a little less damage, and you make the players do a little less damage and a little more tanky, and you just move it like 5 or 10% until everyone's happy that the game is that you're not alienating like the hardcore player base, and you're appealing to new players that don't know how to trade or don't want to trade, and you have like this middle ground of everything. But yeah, these two things are really it. Like, and Asmongold was like, "Oh man, I want more content to do, blah blah blah." I'm like, "Yeah, there's like freaking 7 game modes here. Mini games is really what they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I thought there was like 7 pinnacle bosses too. I'm not sure what all the pinnacle bosses are actually, to be honest. But there's like 7 mini games here, right? There's Breach, there's the Sacrifice, there's Delirium. This is just map bosses. But these are 2 different things. This is the Arbiter. Maxroll has something on it. Okay, here we go. Spoiler, Breach has Zesht. Ritual has King of the Mist. Expedition has Olroth. I haven't seen this guy. Delirium has the Simulacrum. Omniphobia and Kosis. The Trial of the Sycamores has Zarok the Eternal. The Trial of Chaos has the Trial Master. The unknown boss is the Ash guy. Okay, so this is Omniphobia. I think I killed this guy. Oh, this is why I don't have any soul cores. I'm not doing the Trial of Chaos. I should probably try that. Yeah. So I mean, there's three. Yeah, there's like a boss to each of these mechanics, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there's only four mechanics, I guess. And then this is just general bosses. But this is the Arbiter. I don't know how you get to the Arbiter. He's not even on here. This is outdated. So there's 4, and then there's 5 here, and then you have the trial bosses, 6, 7. So there's 7 like pinnacle bosses, which is it's weird to say that, like Asmund was like, there's not I wish there was more content. It's like, dude, you didn't even beat all 7 bosses yet. Maybe getting to them is too boring, which is like fair enough. It does feel kind of a slog. I feel like I should only have to do a few of these maps to get a chance at the boss. And I've done a lot of them. I don't know how many, like maybe you do 10, you complete 10 high level ones or something. But I mean, I haven't even got to max level maps yet. I'm only on like tier 13 waystones or whatever. What are these, tier 14 waystones? So I'm getting close. I'm about to level up again. But yeah, it's not okay. It's not done. They have like a year, okay, before they're planning on full launching. So I feel like early access, people are coming in with poor expectations that don't match like what you're signing up for. Like it's like if you buy Elden Ring, you don't understand that you're gonna die and you're gonna have to farm souls and level up and min-max your character to have an easy time at the game. Then you're gonna have a bad time. You just bash your head into everything. Like the progression is spiky, so like it's up and down and up and down, and the monsters are stronger than you, and you're one-shotting them, and then you're stronger than the monsters, and you're one or it changes. Sometimes you're above the curve, sometimes you're under the curve, and you have to trade to get back up to the curve. Right? Whenever you're below the curve, you just trade up. That's just the way it goes. So, yeah, I guess I don't know why nobody's saying this. Is like the game is built around this trade website. Without the trade website, you're just stuck farming for like 10% of the drops that are for you, and the rest of the drops are useless. And when the trade website's down, everybody in chat goes crazy. Obviously, because it's a huge part of the game. If you're playing solo self-found or whatever, you're signing up for a grind, man. You're signing up for thousands of hours of gameplay, because the amount of progression you're going to get every hour of gameplay without trading is like greatly diminished. All the stuff I have in here is not for me, like quivers and bows and shields and plate armor. None of this stuff's for me. And then some of the stuff is the stuff I used to use, the sandals and the robes and stuff. I don't use hammers or maces or crossbows. But if I get a good one, I can sell it and then go on the trade website and buy. Like that. That's about that. Yeah. So I think the thing is, like, gamers need to kind of know what they're signing up for. Like, I didn't like Undertale. Like, I played Undertale. Do I have Steam open? No, I don't. Can I get Steam open? I played Undertale, and for 5.5 hours, and I beat the game, and I gave it a bad review. Because, I didn't know what I was signing up for, and it was very different than what I thought a game was going to be. 2 people found your review helpful. Look at that. The game was too easy. It's more of a storybook than a game. The writing's okay. Some of the bosses are kind of hard, but there's not much of a game here. You didn't actually experience it. You probably only got one ending. Well, who in the hell plays the game for every ending unless you're a Giga fan? Like, one ending should be enough for a story game. Made no attempt at fleshing out relationships with the other characters. Is this a dating sim? Story rich, choices matter, soundtrack 2D. Cute memes, psychological horror, dating sim. It is way down here. Apparently it is somewhat of a dating sim. And I went through the chat with some of the characters, and like, you could take a guy on a date. And I did take a guy on a date, actually, a skeleton guy. But that doesn't... There was no meaningful decisions in the dialogue. I don't think anything I said actually mattered at all. It was like, do you want to go on a date or do you not want to go on a date? It's like a yes or no. Nothing was super interesting. And I left an honest review that this is not a game. This is a book in game format. There's no game here. And that is a bad game, right? There's nothing to play. The puzzles aren't supposed to be difficult. Well, what the fuck do you have puzzles there for if they're not supposed to be challenging? What are they, funny? You have funny puzzles? Like, what? That's not the point of a puzzle. That's a joke. You're talking about jokes. Bro, you have 5 hours. Well, it only took 5.5 hours because that's all it took to beat the game. Right? I leave... what did I say? Thumbs down on this. I have 2 thumbs down of all my reviews. Pretty much everything else I enjoyed. Oh, so The Messenger, nope. Horizon Zero Dawn, Ubisoft game. Yeah, I beat it. 41.8 hours. Would not recommend this to anyone. This is Baldur's Gate 3. Okay, yeah. I have like 800 hours. That was a good game, but I'm also biased because I played Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, so... but even games that like overstay their welcome, like Red Dead Redemption 2, 60 hours was way too long for that game. I still would recommend it. Only 22 hours to beat Disco Elysium, but would definitely recommend it. Psychonauts, directed at children, basically. Still fun for an adult. I'd still recommend it. Solasta, this is Baldur's Gate 3 if it was made by a indie developer, basically. Definitely recommend that. I played 600 hours online with other players, mostly. Doom, yeah. It only took 15 hours to beat, but it was pretty fun. Final Fantasy Remake, 41 hours to beat it. Because I don't really go back and play after I beat the games. Pretty glorious cutscenes in this game, and the combat and story's pretty good. I felt like I could actually, there was actually a game to play. It's not just a story. 6 hours in Titanfall, 3 hours in Inside. .2 hours and there is no game. It is a short game, but it's also free. Portal 6 hours. Or I guess it's Portal 2. A Plague Tale 10 hours in that. I would recommend that. It's not super long, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. The story gets to the point, and it tells a story, and there's gameplay, and there is a game to play. However, the Messenger's gameplay had gameplay, but it was bad. You just spam keys on your keyboard and hope you win. Horizon Zero Dawn, the gameplay and the story were both kind of bad, except for a few moments where you were like jumping over sliding mechazoid dinosaurs. But yeah, like I feel like I give pretty honest reviews. I don't know about this war of mine. It was kind of, I don't know, it just kind of fell flat for me. I just didn't really like the way it played out. I only played it for 3 hours, and I feel like maybe this is probably the one where if I played it longer, I would maybe change my mind on it, but everything else I'm pretty set on. And I feel like people are coming into this game with the same problems of having different expectations of the game, where you're setting yourself up for a bad time. And that's on you. Like, if you never played Diablo and you never played Path of Exile 1, you're not going to understand like this. This is an economy-based game as much as it is an action-based game. Like I said, it's almost 60% prep and 40% gameplay, engaging and comboing the monsters in the map. Do you need a spreadsheet? Probably not, but you do need to like understand what stats are good on items and what's valuable, and that's part of the fun, is like learning all of the crazy stuff you can do and then realizing, oh, I made a lot of mistakes that set me back in time that I wouldn't make now. On full release, I'm gonna understand the economy much better, so I won't make bad mistakes and waste my time. But if the game developers don't want to tell the players what is a good item to have or pick up or sell or equip, they want to leave that up to the player, and all they're telling us is this arbitrary tiering system of the stats, I feel like a little more hand-holding, another NPC, an artificer that explains and has information more readily available to you. Like, so you have these tooltips, right? Like energy shield, it'll tell me what energy shield does when it's underlined here. Okay, but why not have the modifiers be the same thing, to where I could see a drop-down menu of all of the tiers of all the modifiers right now? Why do I have to go to another website, like, and educate myself on what all the modifier tiers are, right? Because I could do that, right? These are all the tiers, right? And in the game, this will display as the level 8 mod is tier 1. The level 22 mod is tier 2. The level 36 modifier is tier 3. 4, 5, and 6. So there's 6 tiers of increased fire damage on your ring. And so if I go to look at my rings, This has increased cold damage tier 6. This is a maxed out cold damage ring. Tier 6 is as high as it goes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 30% is as high as it goes. And this has 29 on it. So, like, that's good to know, right? But how am I supposed to know there's not a tier 7, 8, 9, 10 as a new player without doing research, right? And doing research isn't really super fun. Like a lot of gamers that are just want to engage with the gameplay don't want to do prep and research. So I feel like the developers need to put that stuff in the UI. And there's tons of games. Basically all the interesting games that I enjoy, League of Legends, Path of Exile, like there's a lot of system mastery that come with them, which requires prep and research to understand how the game works, and then the game's fun. And this creates like a barrier to entry to new players, where somebody can pick up the game and they don't understand as much, and they can't just be better than me because they don't understand as much as me. And that, while it's good for some players that like that kind of thing, where it's like, yeah, you have to learn, newbie, you have to like be in you have to put your hours of research in and understanding in, or you can help them, which is the better thing to do. Help them get into the game, help them understand and learn, which is why a lot of my channel is guides, because the games I enjoy are complicated like this. But I feel like it is a detriment to the game. I feel like these games would be better with all of the stuff in the game client. If I could open up a trade window in the game, or if I could open up all of the modifier tiers in the game, or a list of all the uniques, right? Why are all these question marks? Oh, because you can find them? I want to know what they frickin' are, man. And you could do something in game to unlock it. Something with this new NPC I'm suggesting to unlock it and be like, oh, now you know that there are unique rings and these are what they are, and these might, they might be how you get them from these bosses or whatever. You can do it with story and lore and storytelling, and you can take out the research. You can train the players to be good players in the game, but the developers don't want to do that. That's too much work, I guess. They're lazy. They've already made a good game. It's your job to solve it. We're not going to help you solve the game. And that is just dumb. Like, that is laziness. Like, they did all the work, they made all the assets, the game's beautiful, the game plays well, the special effects are crazy cool. Yeah, you have an economy, you have a meaningful decisions to make in your skill tree, but you still have this god dang website, and this website that's crashing, which maybe I can look for my glove upgrade now that it's up again. What was my cold res? I said I could go down to like 31. And my energy shield is 128. Okay, look, all of these are going for divine orbs. These are like the end game gear. Okay, 2 divine orbs is a ridiculous price. What's the? We can see the market value here. The exchange rate for a divine. It's 57 exalted orbs. So we're talking 114 exalted orbs for an upgrade for my gloves. Okay. That is ridiculous. So, I'm basically at like the end game stuff. Like this is pretty wild at this point. Oh, geez, I don't even know. Yeah, like how do you even? Oof. I think I would eventually I'm just gonna click chaos inoculation and I'm not gonna need chaos resistance anymore, to be honest. I could be fine with some fire res on my next set. Actually, because I'm gonna click all these special nodes I have, all the keystones in my sorceress area. So how much fire res would I want? I guess I would want 12%, 13, maybe like 12 or 13%. Oh no, it crashed again. Yeah, okay. Their website's having a big issue today. This is trade is down again. Unfortunate. Yeah, so I mean the game has issues, right? Because the game is in a website and in the game and there's a barrier to entry, but I mean a game like this is really good for me to make guides on to teach people this kind of stuff, and people seem to like that kind of content, so maybe I will do shorter, like 10-minute directed guides that aren't like live streams where I just ramble on and on about all the stuff with the game. But the barrier to entry, even for like experienced players or dedicated players like Kriparian, Asmongold, and all these other guys, uh, they're having trouble, and I had trouble. But like you solve all your problems with trading, and I don't know. I feel like that's just the way the game's designed. Like it's not made to be solo self-found. That is a challenge mode in the game. But I could definitely do some guides on this. But maybe I'll save it until the real launch of the game, because it is paid in access now. So we do have 500,000 players. That is probably enough people to make guides for. But a ton of other people also are making guides. I don't know. I mean, that doesn't really matter. Like my guides could probably be better, so I probably should still make them because some of the guides might just be bad. And I mean, basically everything I've said so far in this video, in this live stream, is essentially, a combination of stuff I'd break down into smaller bits in guides, like I don't know. It's kind of hard to fit a 10-minute guide. Like if you look at my YouTube channel and my recent guide on Pike for League of Legends, it did pretty well with like 1,000 views, which is really good for my channel. For a guide video, and it is 40 minutes long, 41 minutes long. So yeah, because I go over basically everything you need to know to play that character in that game, and I don't. I mean, I do kind of have to take. It's not easy to explain everything, right? Like how you evaluate an item and price an item without spending a bunch of time looking at prices and when should you gear up, right? Well, how do you build currency and how do you efficiently spend your currency and stuff like that. That's all part of the game, even as much as what nodes you're clicking on here and what skills you're using. It's like a deeper level of this game is that your skills are items you can take out and sell. I could sell my skill, my frostbolt skill. I could just sell this, right? Like that is something I could do. And this is one has 4 links in it, so this one's actually worth a lot. But that is unique, and you can buy skills, right? Like not only could I like sell this skill, I could also buy a skill, and which I've done. I leveled all these up to level 18 skill gems because that's the highest as I could use, and none were dropping. So like you just need to see like what you're falling really behind on and what you could make better. Like this is also cold resistance and chaos. But yeah, how do I get that knowledge out? I would like to say, oh, it's a little 10-minute video, but it ends up being like a 40-minute video, like the pipe guide that I put out, or the half an hour long video on how to master champion picks online that got 2,000 views. Those are really the what I can provide, the value that my videos are turning out to provide is just helping people get into these complex games and these complex systems rather than being an entertainment channel. Because I don't like act or anything really, and this is just me, right? I'm not going like, oh my god, guys, look at this new drop. Oh my god. Why is everybody saying get down, Mr. President? I'm half convinced that GGG servers are powered by a hamster wheel, and the poor little guy just quit because he can't even deal with this anymore. Meanwhile, what's GGG doing about it? Probably sitting around, and they're all hands meeting, brainstorming new microtransactions. Hear me out, team. A $60 fireball effect that glitches your game every 15 minutes. Bravo, truly stellar. I feel like Grinding Gear Games has more money, they've put in more work, and they have more money than they've ever had before. That being said, they have a product. This is their peak, right? If you look at game developers and game development studios, they go on a trend, right? This is just the way capitalism works. Can I do new? I don't use paint. New. Do I want to save this? Sure. Oh, maybe not. Okay. Oh, geez. Oh, geez. Okay. If I if you look at the game development studios, right? You have like they start out, maybe they're like an indie game developer on a timeline, and they start over here and they finish over here. And their first game is building trust. That's Path of Exile 1. That's Dark Souls up to 3. That's actually I could use this, right? That's like Destiny 1. That's Diablo 2. This is World of Warcraft. I don't know, like, what did people say when it went downhill after, like, Legion? Or Wrath? I forget. I didn't play WoW, but you get the idea. And they build up the trust, and then they peak. And when they peak, they try to hit way more players. And this is where, like, from your little niche studio, like Divinity over here, right? And then you have your peak games for studios, which is like your Baldur's Gate 3, your Elden Ring, your PoE 2, something like that. Like, these are the peak, right? I don't know. Maybe WoW Legion should be at the peak, and all of these are at the peak. But what happens after a studio peaks? This is where you want to play, right? You want to play here, or if you're a big fan, you want to play early on. And if you get a game where you play PoE 1 and then you go into PoE 2, and it kind of peaks, you need to make sure you're not in the sellout phase. And the sellout phase is I guess Destiny 1 could also be at a peak, and then you could put like Halo as the earlier titles, because that studio's like some of the same people. But if you go to the sellouts, this is where you don't want to play anymore, right? And this is after they peak. This is Elden Ring Night Rain, right? This is Destiny 2. Like, this is hopefully this is Path of Exile 3 and not Path of Exile 2. Right? This is where the studio has lost its way. They built up trust, and they culminated that trust with a peak game that they took to a larger audience. And now that they have a large audience, they cash grab all the money they can from them, and they go back down to being worthless. You can't trust them at all, and you don't want to buy any other games or play any of their games. And this is the life cycle of a studio, right? This is what happens. This is capitalism. You can't trust any studio to not follow this trend eventually, right? As soon as they build up, you have trust building titles, you have your peak like generally appealing titles, where you take your niche title and you make it more broadly appealing, and then you sell out a bunch of garbage. And oh, well, I guess that's just is the way it is. Paint is such a terrible program. But you get the idea. Is like you want to play games either early on if you're really into that niche type of game and you're an early adopter, or you want to play the peak games. This is like if you're a Giga fan. This is if you're like a casual gamer. Everybody's gonna like these. These are S tier games. Okay, these are F tier games. And you can assume that after Path of Exile 2 is successful and reaches a broad player base, Path of Exile 3 is going to be garbage. Just assume it. Just assume it. It's going to be sellout garbage because that's what happens after studios hit their peak every time. Right? And you know, you also take a lot of risks early adopting a game because it could be have bugs or be crashy or whatever. But I assume Path of Exile 2 is going to be a peak game, which is why I bought in, because I could tell that this is the lifestyle of the studio. They're a AA studio right now. By the time this is over, they're a AAA studio. Like they could grow exponentially if they wanted to at this point with Path of Exile 2, and then once they're a AAA studio, then they can sell out their player base and all of the trust they've earned, and then they can cash out and sell the company and retire, and they don't ever have to work again, right? Like, and you never. I don't know, like every developer in the world, right? So some people are going to stay true to their values or whatever, and they're not going to sell out, but 95% of the time they're selling out, right? Like this is just capitalism. Like most of the time it's just what you're going to do, right? So what you need to do is identify as a gamer, identify early adoption games you can adopt early that have lots of promise, that aren't early backing quick starter games that have, like I don't know, like Ashes of Creation and stuff that might just fall on its face. Identify like companies that have an upward trajectory in their games, and you could adopt their games early and have a lot of fun with their early games. Or just wait for Giga Peak games that everybody says is good and are broadly appealing. And then don't play the sequels. Don't play anything over here, because it's just going to be bad. Right? That's basically that. You don't, and you can identify this issue with every game studio. I don't know, like list of game dev studios. Oh god, why does Wiki not have a dark mode? They don't have a dark mode? Sorry, Wiki, I'm not donating. 2K, okay, so this is the developer, city, administrative division, country, established, notable games, okay. Like 2K, they do a bunch of sports games, like 343, they do a lot of the Halo stuff. Duke Nukem, 3D Realms, they're old school, man. Metro series 4A, I didn't play any of those, but generally most franchise studios go through this. I guess I would say it would be franchise studios. If they're like a one-hit wonder, like Hey You Pikachu or whatever, like Umbrella from Tokyo, like I don't know, Sword Art Online series. Wow, this was in 2002. Oh wow, there's a ton here, but yeah, you get it. Oh, like Bethesda. I think Bethesda already hit its peak with Oblivion, guys. Like that was the peak game. If you didn't play Oblivion when it came out, sorry. Or maybe Fallout. People say New Vegas, I think, is probably the peak, and now it's just kind of been trash, as far as I can tell. They cannot innovate anymore, or do anything worth playing. Uh, I think the Bioshock whole collection was about the same level. Blizzard, Diablo 2, and StarCraft 2. I think Overwatch died. Yeah. Those were like the peak standouts. Shadow of the Colossus, Demon Souls remake. Oh, they just do remakes. Interesting. Oh, Prince of Persia. They're from Eugene, Oregon? No way. They closed in 1998. Oh, that's unfortunate that they closed. Prince of Persia is a really good series. Almost all the games are pretty good. Oh my god, Capcom. Look at Capcom. Capcom. I think Capcom is peaking in Monster Hunter right now with Wilds. Maybe you could say Worlds was peak. It's hard to say. Devil May Cry 5, apparently I have that one. Apparently that one is pretty peak. Dragon's Dogma 2, I don't know. I don't even know if you could play it. I didn't even play it, so I did watch people play it, but it was not all that. I don't think the in-game boss fights were really cool though. CD Projekt Red, The Witcher 3 kind of peaked, but we'll see how 4 does. And Cyberpunk had a terrible launch, as everybody knows, but I don't know if they'll even do a sequel. So, it's not really like a franchise you could follow. It's kind of just like a big standout game. Beautiful Joe was Okami. Oh my god, they made Okami also? It's a subsidiary of Capcom, huh? Defunct in 2007? What's that mean? Defunct? I mean they broke away from their Capcom ownership, or what? That's like a legal business term, I think. Summoners of War. Oh, I've seen these. These are like Korean games. Dot Hack series. My cousin had some of these. I never played them. They do anime games. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Oh, the Myst series. I had that on but they were like puzzle games. In Meade, Washington, huh? Interesting. Time Splitters. I played that. 1999. Crytek out of England. Interesting. Oh, they also did Far Cry and Crysis. Oh, this is their UK, and their main is in Germany. Okay. Yeah, I don't know, but there's so many game development studios out there. Like this list is huge. And the more I'm seeing it, like London, Ontario, Canada. You know, a lot of these don't follow that. The building trust peaking selling out kind of model, especially if they have like one game like Warframe or they have like a one-off. But if they have like a series, it just makes sense as far as uh, capitalism is concerned, where they build up trust, they get a bunch of money, they put out a big game, and then the next one is just kind of bad. Like Diablo 3. Diablo 3 was terrible. It was such a sellout game. They didn't even try, let's be honest. Like, it had none of the trading that Diablo 2 had. Like, this game is the successor of Diablo 2. But we'll see if they can keep the trade server up, the trade website up, and all that kind of stuff. FromSoft made, look at all these games that they built so much trust with. Now they're selling out with Night Rain and like this stupid battle royale thing. That's just like a total cop-out departure of their other games. You know, I'm sure it'll have like Destiny 1 to Destiny 2. Where's a Oh, there's going to be a bunch. Bungie made Halo, Marathon, Oni. Oh, they made Oni? I had that game on PlayStation. Pathways into Darkness, Minotaur. When Bungie came out with Destiny, at the end of its lifespan of its DLCs, they started adding microtransactions, and I could tell Destiny 2, you can actually buy powerful guns, and skip over playing the game. So, and then use those on other players, right? So that's why you get out at the end of Destiny 1, you jump ship, right? If you're an average gamer, like you need to know where the companies are at. If you can feel the sellout coming, just jump ship. Don't waste your time. Don't stay around too long, and be blindly trustful of the studio. Because at the end of the day, you can trust that they're gonna trend towards capitalism and not honoring all the trust they built with you as the player. I feel like Path of Exile 2 hopefully is the peak and not the sellout. You know what I mean? So, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, I saw that, right? Sai Games from Tokyo. They do a lot of like anime stuff. Mabinogi. Oh, here's a Double Fine. Founded by former employees of LucasArts, acquired by Microsoft. Yeah, apparently it's been real rough for studios. People overhire and then they lay off a bunch of people and they don't keep their talent around. Stardew Valley, if this is just one dude in Seattle. Interesting, man. He made the whole game, Stardew Valley. I bought that game. I gave this guy money. I'm gonna play it on the channel someday. Alright, okay, yeah, we're back at FromSoft. Yeah, anyways, there's a lot out there. Super Mario, like Nintendo. I think Nintendo's done a good job of keeping their fan base or whatever, not giving in to sellout spin-off titles. Most Nintendo games are. I mean, they do have lots of big franchises, but you can't really obviously tell which ones of them are peak and which one of them are sellouts, where they just kind of like did a cash grab. But with something like Elden Ring, Night Rain, you can obviously tell they're like they did. I feel like that is a pretty obvious um like trajectory that you can follow for FromSoft, where they like had Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring as their peak standout, right? They built trust in a niche audience. Then they had a more generally appealing game, and now it's time to sell out to that generally appealing audience. Now that everyone knows what Elden Ring is, now we have Elden Ring, the sellout version, right? And like that is the quintessential thing you can track with almost every game. You could say Diablo 1 was a niche for a niche early audience, and Diablo 2 was their peak, and then Diablo 3 was the sellout title. And Diablo 4 continues that trend. Actually, there was a Diablo mobile game, Immortal, that was giga sellout, right? So like you can follow this in a lot of studios, not all of them, but if they don't follow this model, the chances are is that they're just selling out all the time. Like League of Legends is always selling out skins instead of adding stuff to make the game better. You know, they just do the minimum they have to change the game to keep people playing, and it's a fun game. It is. If you can get around getting angry at your teammates, it's like the mechanics are a lot of the same with this game, right? Isometric action. Um, it's a very similar game in that, and how you actually are interacting with your character in the game. But obviously, that game's competitive, and this one has little to no PvP that I know of. Apparently, you're going to be able to duel, but just like in Diablo, it's kind of an afterthought. Most of it is about building up your character and not really interacting with other people's characters other than trading. Yeah. So I guess the takeaway is be an informed consumer and stay tuned to the channel for more guides on these complicated games and then reviews on, other peak games of if they're actually peak or sell out. I mean, I try to have an informed decision and at least play the game for a few hours and not like cut it short. But like this war of mine, I only did like one campaign. I probably should have done like 2 or 3 more campaigns. That one I probably didn't give a super fair shot, but if it's a story game where you have a beginning, middle, and end, and I get to the end and the game was bad, like Undertale, I'm gonna say it's bad. Even though it was like a cute experience or whatever, there just wasn't much meat to the game. Whereas, and that's what you can expect from the channel. Obviously, I like games like Path of Exile 2, where it's really meaty. There's lots of meat to the game, and part of that is even outside of the game on this like first-party trade website or this first-party database website that'll help you understand how good items can get, so you know how to sell items for what price and stuff. Or like League, where they don't really teach you how to play League of Legends at all, and you have to teach yourself based off of other people's experiences, like how you actually get gold leads and maintain them and close out games, and find roam timers and back timers and stuff. But anyways, That's my rant. That's about it. I'll call it there. Yeah, peace for now.
Yo, microphone check, make it a microphone check. Give it a microphone, I make it a microphone dead. Don't step to me, newbie, I could truly be moody. I could have played the fucking Grinch in the movies. I've been a part-time shadow cat, part-time. That is not a guy that I would ever want to try to battle rap. Snap, crackle, pop, mind fried to a crisp. Make an MC into a wide-eyed lunatic.